G'day and welcome to another video with Better Pics. Hope this finds everyone well. Today's video we're going to have a look at a few changes within Adobe Camera Raw on a recent update, and it looks at the Detail tab, and we're going to see some improvements in how the process of denoise, raw details and super resolution works. You probably remember when those options first came out, they would create a separate DNG whenever you applied any of those adjustments or settings to your particular images, which is great because you're left with the original file, but it also means that you have to deal with extra files, which mean extra storage. So the beauty of the updates that we're going to see currently is that it's actually now a non-destructive process of editing, which means that all of those edits are applied directly to the original files themselves, but they're not baked in, which means that you can shut Adobe Camera Raw down and revisit those images and make adjustments further to the original adjustments that you made. It means that you don't have to commit to those edits whenever you're editing to them, and if you want to come back, as I said, if you want to come back and readjust those edits in the future, you now have that flexibility. Now, while the extra file creation definitely did work, it meant with that extra file that those adjustments were baked in and you didn't have that flexibility of revisiting your edits if you wanted to. So I've got a couple of images here. The first one was photographed in a church in Italy, and it was photographed on a Fuji X-T2 at 3200 ISO, which you can see up in the settings here on the top right-hand corner. Now, while the images got really good clarity, 3200 on a crop sensor camera that's almost 9 years old certainly doesn't give you the clarity that you get from many cameras nowadays. So it's a really interesting image to look at and see how well these effects are going to take place. So let's just zoom into 100%, and you can see that there is a bit of noise there. It's certainly not an obscene amount of noise, but it's enough noise to, to the point where if I was looking at this as an image that I was going to publish or sell or make as part of my portfolio, I'd certainly want to make some adjustments to deal with that noise and reduce it as best as possible. So if we head down to the Detail tab here, you can see we've got the option for Denoise, and we're just going to click on that, and it's going to go through just a application process of that denoise. It takes a little bit of time. We'll speed it up just so that you're not having to watch it the whole way through. Obviously, the time it takes is dependent on the file and as well as your specs on your computer as well. So as you can see, as a default application of that denoise, straight away there's way less noise in that image. So, and while it's removed that noise, it hasn't necessarily removed detail, which is a really good thing. You can see as part of the denoise process, it's also got a tick on the raw details, which is grayed out, but as part of that process, the raw details is applied to help maintain and keep that detail, especially in an image like this where there's texture of rock and sandstone on the interior of this church. Now, if we uncheck that box, you can see that the noise is immediately back there, and it really has done a great job of removing that noise. We'll just accidentally, we'll just go back to 100%. That was my bad, sorry. If we just have a look around the image, you can see that it really has done a great job. You'll notice here as well that there's a slider that defaults to 50. Basically, the slider allows you to reduce or increase the amount of denoise that's applied to your image. So if we go all the way to the left down to 1, you can see that it's not applying much denoise. And if we go all the way to the right, you can see it's applying more. So it has a bit of a smoothing effect, but overall still maintains pretty good detail in an image like this that has a lot of detail to look at. Really, the way to go around how much you use that slider left or right will come down to your image, the amount of noise that's in there to start with, and what final result you're really looking for. It really is another example within photography, which I think these examples are everywhere, where there's not a silver bullet. There's not one way of applying any adjustments or any filters or anything to your images that you apply the same to every single image, because as I said, it depends on the camera, the image, the settings that you've used, the amount of noise, the lighting, a whole bunch of factors, the quality of the lens, a whole bunch of factors that are going to affect how bad your image is, how much denoise is going to need to be applied, and the process in which you apply it. Okay, so we're just going to pop down to this image. This is an image that was obviously shot with a drone. It's approximately 19.9 megapixels, just under 20, and you can see it's quite sharp. There's quite good detail in the image, and as a native resolution straight out of the drone or out of the camera, certainly happy with it. It's really good sharpness. It's obviously really good exposure. ISO 100, f7 V17.1 and 6/40th of a second. So super sharp, shot in the bright sunlight, and a really good exposure overall. No changes, just for interest's sake. There's no edits or changes that have been made to this image as well. This is straight out of the camera. So what we're going to look at is raw details and super resolution. So we're going to apply raw details first, and basically that just increases the detail that you'll see. So increase the apparent sharpness and what I like to call crispness of the image. And this is a really good thing to do just in general, but certainly when looking at the super resolution, which is the next step that we're going to look at, it's a great thing as well. So we're just going to turn that on and off. So you can see that there is a little bit of a increase in detail there, which is not a bad thing. We'll just go down to this boat, and we're going to go to 100%. The reason I go to 100%, and I certainly always recommend it, is 100% is looking at every pixel created by the camera on your monitor. So you're seeing the actual pixel detail that's in the original file. All right, so raw details off and on. It's not a massive difference, but it's just enough to notice, and certainly I think improve the quality of your images. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, the beauty of these changes to Adobe Camera Raw is that application of this Denoise raw details and super resolution now is non-destructive. It's applied directly to your images as opposed to creating a separate file, which used to be a DNG file. There's nothing wrong with creating a separate file. You've still got all that flexibility of a raw image workflow when you're working with DNG, so no dramas there. But it just means that if you want to come back and make further changes to those particular settings within the image, if you have a change of mind or if you think there's a better way to go, then you're not locked in. You don't have baked in settings, for want of better words. So as you can see, it's a little bit of a process. This will be dependent on the image, speed of your computer, a few different variables. But I mean, on the scale of things, it's not really too long a process. Obviously, if you've got a lot of images to edit, that's a consideration, and what actually causes the amount of time taken is a whole bunch of things. So, all right, so we've gone from just under 20 megapixels to just under 80 megapixels, and you can see that the detail is reasonably good there. I'd go through detail and go through the sharpening process. As I mentioned, this is the original image fresh out of the camera. But it certainly has done a great job of increasing that resolution, and would give you, I think, a little bit more flexibility in cropping and size that you can print. Of course, the size of an image and the clarity that's maintained is really dependent on the quality of the original capture. So you need to look at that as a factor. It's, again, not going to be a silver bullet or one approach that fits all images. You really need to look at what the original image is. From my experience, I believe that there is far more importance in the sharpness and clarity of an image than the original resolution. I'd rather start with a lower resolution image that has really good clarity and sharpness, rather than a higher resolution that doesn't have absolute sharpness. And I always find that any increase or printing to large sizes, the clarity and sharpness is the determining factor, not the resolution of the image. Resolution of the image absolutely contributes to the size, but it's not the determining factor in my experience. So as you can see, we've started with those two files, and we still are working on those original two files. We don't have the extra files created, which was the old way of going whenever we were using these tools within Adobe Camera Raw, and some real benefits there. You know, we don't have extra files to deal with. We don't have extra storage being taken up on our hard drives, and we've got the original files and being non-destructively edited, which is a really, really good way to go. Absolute flexibility for further changes down the track. Thanks so much for stopping by. I hope you've enjoyed this video, found it helpful. As always, any questions are welcome in the comments below, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.